Alright, so this video is covering Chapter 15 of Building Vocabulary Skills. You can follow along on page 84. So here's the words. I'll go over them. You can take guesses as to what parts of speech they are. So first one is plausible, provoke, recur, reprimand, revoke, ridicule, shrewd, skeptical, stereotype, and tactic. All right, so here's our first word, plausible. Was Buck's excuse for being late plausible? This is an adjective. Or did he tell you some unbelievable story? Some classic TV shows were just not plausible, said the producer. Who ever heard of a flying nun or a teenage doctor? So plausible means believable. On page 85, plausible is number 3. Believable, appearing truthful or reasonable. So when we describe something as plausible, it means that it's something that a reasonable person would accept to be true. So in the first example, was Buck's excuse of being late plausible? Meaning, did he give an excuse that you could believe? Like he overslept. Sure, you can believe that. But something that would be implausible or not plausible would be that he got attacked by aliens, right? You can't believe that. So something that's plausible would be the kind of excuse that a regular person would be likely to believe. Another way to think about it is that it's possible. It's possibly true. Okay, our next one here is provoke, and this is a verb. Mr. Jackson provoked me by saying nasty things about my mother, so I hit him, Jerry told the judge. My father is slow to anger, but this morning my sister's wisecrack began to provoke him. And provoke means to anger. On page 85, provoke means to stir up anger or resentment. Now, in this one, to anger doesn't mean angry, so you wouldn't say I am provoke. It's not an adjective. But to anger means to make someone angry. With provoke, the way that I often associate it with is the word poke, and to poke means to touch someone with your finger, right? So provoke means to start someone to get angry. Provoke is about beginning the anger. So in the first one, Mr. Jackson provoked me. He got me angry by saying bad things about my mother. In the second one, my sister's wisecracks. Wisecracks are jokes. They began to provoke him. They started to get him angry. Okay, so provoke means that it's starting to get someone angry. Recur. This is a verb as well. 5-year-old Arnie's nightmares of ghosts chasing him tends to recur at least once a week. If your headaches keep recurring, the doctor told Mrs. Lopez, I'm going to recommend a lab test. We need to find out why you are having so much pain. So recur means to happen again. It's number 9 on page 85. To occur again, happen repeatedly. So in the first example, right, his nightmares recurred once a week, so it's happening repeatedly. In the second one, her headaches are recurring, meaning they're happening repeatedly. Recur doesn't mean that it has to be happening repeatedly on a schedule, but it just means that it keeps on coming up again and again and again. One of the things that, as a teacher that is frustrating for me sometimes in people's writings is that the same errors keep on recurring. So that, like I've said this before, I'm really crazy about commas. But I will correct a comma mistake, tell the student why it's wrong, and the next thing that happens when they turn in the next paper, the same mistake is coming again and again and again. So we talk about recur. Recur can be like you can have a recurring problem, meaning that say with your car, right? you have some problem with an oil leak. You take it to the mechanic, you get it fixed. The next week, you still have the same problem. It's a problem that comes back again and again and again. Okay, but the important thing about recur is that it keeps on happening, right? Recur means that it happens again. All right, our next one's reprimand, and this one is a noun. If a boss wants to criticize a worker, the union requires that the reprimand be written. As a child, when I misbehaved, my father gave me verbal reprimands, but my mother would not hesitate to send me to my room for a timeout. So reprimand in this case is a scolding. Okay, on page 85, reprimand is number 7, a formal criticisms, a harsh scolding. So there's two parts to that, right? A scolding means when you tell someone that they have done something wrong, right? So in the first definition we're saying is that it's a formal one. So in the example here, if a boss wants to criticize a worker, he has to formally write down the complaint. And the second one, this one is more focusing on a serious scolding, so that when the child misbehaved, the father reprimands her, said you did something really, really bad, but the mother gave a timeout. So it can be used in both of these ways, in the sense of like a formal written warning. You may have heard this at in work, like if you do something really wrong, you'll get a formal reprimand. Your manager, your boss will write you up. That would be a reprimand. If you want to think about in terms of soccer, a reprimand would be a yellow card. Like if you get a yellow card, the referee writes down your name in the book. If it's just a regular foul, that's not a reprimand because it's not formally written down, even if the person says you need to calm down and not cause anybody to get hurt. Our next one here is revoke, and this is also a verb. Mrs. Byers says she would revoke Ken's privileges at the computer lab if he ever again squirted glue between the computer keys. To avoid having his driver's license revoked, Art paid the $467 he owed for all of his speeding tickets. So revoke in this case means to cancel, but it has additional meaning to that. It's number 5 on page 85, and it says to take away or cancel. But when we talk about revoke, we're normally talking about some privilege or some right that you were given but can be taken away from you. So in the first example, Ken is allowed to go to the computer lab, but if it's revoked, it means he's not allowed to go. His right to do something is taken away. In the second one, you can have your driver's license revoked. If in this case, if you're not paying all of your speeding tickets, basically what they do is they take your privilege to drive away from you in the form of your driver's license. The same thing could happen with your passport, right? Your passport could be revoked if you were, if you were a criminal or you were convicted of being a criminal. They might cancel your passport or take it away. So revoke really means is that you're taking away some privilege or some right or some ability to do something. All right, the next one here is ridicule, and this is a verb as well. Ignorant people often ridicule my brother because he's so overweight. Even if they had perfect bodies, which they do not, they have no right to tease him. Eugene knew his friends would ridicule him for wearing a shirt and shorts with 2 different plaids, but he had no other clean clothes to wear. So ridicule means to make fun of. On page 85, it's number 8, to make fun of or mock. So the word mock, the word mock means to make fun of. It means that not just that you're laughing because something funny, but that we say the difference between laughing with and laughing at. So ridicule means to laugh at. maybe not so much to laugh, but to make fun of, to put someone down. So, for example, in the first one, oftentimes if kids are overweight, they get teased because of their weight. People are like, "Oh, look at you look silly, ba ba ba," like that. In the second example, his friends, because he's wearing these shorts and shirt that don't match, they'd be like, "Dude, what's up? This is stupid. Why are you doing that?" So ridicule means to like joke, to make a joke of someone else. Okay. Moving on. Next one, shrewd. This is an adjective. Julio is a fine musician, but he's no good with money, so he hired a friend with a shrewd business sense to handle his financial affairs. Sherry is a shrewd chess player. She always surprises her opponents with clever winning moves. And shrewd means smart. But again, it means something more than that. On page 85, it says number 2, clever, tricky. So when we talk about shrewd, we mean someone is good at doing something specific. Basically, someone is smart in some special way. So in the first example, it says he's shrewd at business. His friend is shrewd at business. It means that his friend has a special ability to do business. He knows about doing business. In the second one, she's a shrewd chess player. It means that she's very good at playing chess, that she has some special knowledge or ability about doing chess. So, we wouldn't just say, if you just describe someone as shrewd, it doesn't really mean just that they're smart, right? Like if you said, oh, John is smart, it means he's intelligent, right? But if you say he's shrewd, really this means is that he's good at figuring out something in some special circumstance. So like the example of being shrewd at business, you could be, shrewd uh, uh, with with money, meaning that you have a good way of making money, that you have a clever ability to do it. Okay? So moving on, skeptical. I'm skeptical about the articles on movie stars and space aliens in supermarket newspapers. My brother, however, believes every word he reads in those newspapers. Vanessa's family is so rich that she's skeptical about any man who asks her out. She wonders if he's interested in her or in her money. Skeptical means doubtful. Doubtful on page 85. Skeptical is number 1, doubting or questioning. So skeptical is related to the word skeptic, and a skeptic is a person who is very suspicious of everything, who doesn't just take things at face value, who is always questioning things. So there's lots of skeptics about specific things that have happened in the world. So like there's skeptics about 9/11. So, the official story of 9/11 is that terrorists hijacked the airplanes and flew them into these planes and these buildings. There's skeptics who don't believe that. For whatever reason, they say, "Nah, I'm not sure that that's true." But if you describe someone as skeptical, it means that their first instinct is to question rather than to accept. So in this first one, these articles on movie stars and space aliens, the first instinct is like, I don't think that's right. In the second one, her family, she's skeptical because her first instinct, if some guy comes up to her, is to be like, he wants some of my money. I can't trust this guy. So the first instinct of someone who's skeptical is to question. So you can see that this could be a negative or this could be a positive, right? Being skeptical in some situations, it may be a good thing, right? If you're in business, it's probably a good thing to be skeptical because, there may be people who are trying to steal your money. But maybe in relationships, this could be a bad thing. So it sort of depends on the situation. All right, our next word here is stereotype. Bev still accepts the stereotype of all athletes as stupid, even though the school's star quarterback is her math tutor. Because not all members of a group are alike, stereotypes lead to inaccurate judgments of people. And a stereotype is an overly simplified image. It's number 10 on page 85. A commonly accepted image that is oversimplified with no individuality taken into account. A label, a generalization. Okay, so stereotypes are often related with racism. They're also often related with sexism. But a stereotype means it's a generalization about a group of people. So take one racist stereotype. One stereotype of black people in America is that they can dance. So this is the idea that all black people are good at dancing. Are some black people good at dancing? Yeah, of course. Some white people are too, and Hispanic people too. But not all black people are good at dancing. One stereotype of in the U.S. of women specifically who have blonde hair is that they're stupid, right? Are all blonde-haired women stupid? No. Are some stupid? Yeah, sure. But it's a stereotype, meaning that it's a generalization. It's oversimplified, and can be applied to all people. I'm sure that you are familiar with some stereotypes of people from your from whatever country that you're from. There's a lot of negative stereotypes out there. All right, our next one here is tactic, and this is a noun. The teacher finally caught on to Greg's sneaky tactic for getting his homework done, having his sister do it. The best tactic for keeping young children from fighting is to separate them. And a tactic is a method. On page 85, it's number 6, a means to reach a goal, a method. All right, so one thing we want to keep in mind here is that we see after tactic, we see the word for. So it doesn't have to be followed by for, but it often is. So a tactic is a method, but it's a method for doing something. It's a method for some reason or for some goal. So in the first one, his method, the way that he got his homework done, was to have his sister do it. Okay? And the second one, the way to keep the young children from fighting is separating them. Okay? So a tactic, that one of the question is, what's one of your tactics for doing well or for getting all of your work done? So this would be, one thing, or one thing that you do in order to get your homework done. Okay? So tactic means a way that you accomplish some goal. All right, so let's take a look at this sentence check. At first, the other students blanked Sophie for speaking with an accent, but they stopped teasing her once they got to know her better. So what did they do? She had an accent, and so how did they treat her at first? Aesop's fables are charming stories based on blanks of animals. In the fables, foxes are always sly, lions are always fierce, and owls are always wise. Now, this may be a little bit difficult for you because this is very cultural, but maybe it's also in your culture, but in American culture, this the overly simplified image of foxes is that they're always sly, and that lions are always fierce, and that owls are always wise. So what word should go in there? So the first one is ridiculed. They made fun of her for speaking with an accent, but then they stopped. And the next one is stereotypes. These are oversimplified images of these animals. It takes great skill to make a science fiction film seem blank to the audience, right? So a science fiction film is like a film like Star Wars, or something like that. So it's going to take a lot of work to make it seem like what? How would you want to make it seem? Because you're talking about a make-believe world. So what do you want to make it seem like? Um, it was blank of Connie to move to California last year. Now she can pay in-state fees when she takes courses at San Bernardino Valley College. So how would you describe her? She decided to move a year ahead of time so that now she doesn't have to pay. She pays in-state instead of out-of-state. Is this a smart thing to do or a not smart thing to do? Jordan's has headaches that blank as often as once a day. So these headaches are happening every day, at least one time every day. The first one's plausible, right? They're trying to make these science fiction films seem like they're believable. In the next one, it's very shrewd of her. It's very clever of her. She was smart about, in this case, about saving money or being able to get a better deal. And the last one is his headaches keep on coming back. They recur. Some divorced parents who want to see more of their children use an illegal blank, kidnapping. So the way or the method that they use to get their children is kidnapping. The roofer's estimate was so low that we became blank about the quality of his work. So the estimate means how much he says it's going to cost. It was so cheap. How are we going to think? What are we going to think? Yeah, he's probably good at his work, or are we going to start to maybe doubt whether he's any good at his job? So the first one is tactic. The method for kidnapping, and next one is skeptical, right? If it's so cheap, you start to wonder, why is it so cheap? The principal sent the gym teacher a written blank for not having his class leave the gym right after the fire alarm rang. Okay, so the gym teacher did something wrong. So in writing, the principal told him that he did something wrong. Arturo usually doesn't let his older sister's teasing blank him, but he gets angry whenever she calls him baby, right? So what is this? He tries to not let it make him angry, but he does get angry when she calls him baby. Maggie's parents said she could not attend the prom because of her bad grades, but later they felt sorry for her and blanked the punishment. So she was gonna not be allowed to go, but then her parents changed it and took away the punishment. Took away the punishment. So the first one here is reprimand, right? Is a written notice saying that he did something wrong. The second one is provoked, right? The teasing makes him angry, and the last one is revoke, meaning that they canceled the punishment or they took away the punishment. All right. So again, do the online exercises, do the questions, and then bring any additional questions you have to class. See you then. Bye.